Hey, Adam Savage here, everybody, in my cave, day 14 of the coronavirus shelter in place order. And I wanted to shoot a video here about something I don't want to talk about. And that is this my injury. I am talking to you on a Monday. Friday, 3 days ago, I did an accident. uh, I hurt my finger, and I'd like to talk to you about it. I noticed as I was hand holding the camera earlier that my hands started to shake as I started to talk about the accident because it's so intense. Hold on. I've taken a Claritin, but there's a pollen bloom in San Francisco today, and so my face is falling apart. So I've mounted the camera on a tripod so I won't be holding it on with my hand. So look, injuries happen. It's part of being a maker. I wish it wasn't, but it is. And you should know, before I start talking about any of this, I am not a medical professional. I've had no medical training. I have ways in which I have dealt with my own injuries over the years. I have some 70 odd stitches in my hands and other parts of my body. But please don't take anything I'm about to tell you as informational or any guide as to how you should deal with it. If you have any questions or you've injured yourself, you should seek the help of a medical professional, not anything you have heard from me. That's my disclaimer at the start of this. Now, I said I didn't want to talk about this, and I don't. Because when you have a bad injury in a shop, hold on just a second. Oh, this pollen bloom today. When you have a bad injury at the shop, for me at least, there is always a resulting feeling of shame and self-anger because I've hurt the most important thing to me, myself, right? I've hurt my hands. This is how I interact with the world. And frankly, this injury, I almost lost my finger. And I want to talk to you about what happened. So this is my lathe. This is one of my favorite tools in the shop. It is a 15 by 40 tool room lathe by Chenois. And it's a beautiful machine. And it's had this intermittent problem. This is the speed dial that selects one of the four major speeds. And for the last few years, I've been slowly, intermittently losing the Y speed, the last one in the line, for some reason. And I haven't been able to figure out why, and I decided to on Friday. So I actually removed all the stuff from the machine, and I cleared away the cabinets that are around it, and I pulled off the top of this, and I drained several gallons of motor oil out of the machine so I could start to see it clearly. And I spent about 2 hours diagnosing the problem that I was having, and I finally figured it out. I finally figured out that as I moved this speed selector back and forth, for some reason, it had started to push this seated bearing out of its seat, and it created this extra bit of space, and that extra bit of space was keeping the gears from meshing the way they should. So then I had the problem of then I was confronted, excuse me, then I was confronted with solving the problem of how to get that bearing back in. And another 2 hours of work and cutting some pieces of metal and making some wedges so that I could do it without damaging the machine. This is a bearing that was put in place while that machine was dry and completely disassembled. Trying to reseat it without doing that was non-trivial, but I did it. And now my lathe is back to fully functioning order, and it's super exciting. And once I did that, I was like, yes! Okay, now I'm gonna clean up my lathe so it's just a perfect piece of equipment. And I took a wire brush to the lead screw, and I'm just like, oh, cleaning the lead screw. And I started spraying down everything with WD-40 and using steel wool, and it's starting to look really beautiful. And I took this rag, and I started to clean this part while it was spinning. I know. Now I know. I started to clean this part while it was spinning. And these two pairs of spinning rods right here, these are part of the drive system that allows you to feed the lathe automatically. They grabbed the rag, and then they grabbed my hand. And I had this moment where I saw that happening. And I know that I'm working on this machine super powerful machine, I had this moment where I actually understood that I was plausibly about to lose my finger or my hand. And the adrenaline rush from that is, I'm still like kind of every couple of hours, I'm still having this sort of this moment of that memory, that adrenaline rush of feeling like I was about to lose this. I can't reiterate enough to you how much I don't want to talk about this, how much shame I have over the fact that I did something so stupid as to slip a rag between two spinning things where my hand was there. That was a colossally stupid thing to do. And yet I'm also cognizant that injuries happen to makers. They occur. They can't be avoided. You can't eliminate that from the roster of things that are plausible. And we learn the hard way. We learn through experience. And if experience is any teacher, that's why I am talking about this. I hope that my experience could, run somebody else's injury off at the pass. So while you shouldn't take any of my advice about how I dealt with this cut as any kind of medical advice from the philosophical standpoint, it was in the cleaning of this machine that I let my guard down. To be clear, when I was repairing it, I was cognizant that all these gears were nothing but a meat grinder. I went to the main breaker box in my shop and I shut down power to this tool so it could not be turned on under any circumstances. I was totally aware of the safety issues of repairing this machine. I then, after going through that, stopped thinking that this machine was dangerous to me. And that's when it became super dangerous to me. There's this axiom about helicopter pilots that beginning helicopter pilots never crash, that most crashes are experienced helicopter pilots. And I have no idea if that's true or not, but from a shop practice standpoint, it is absolutely a great axiomatic sort of guidance, right? Because it's when you are overly comfortable with something that you let your guard down. And somebody on Twitter, when I posted this story, said, yeah, all of their injuries happened during reassembly, because that's when their guard was down. And that really resonated so deeply with me. So in the off chance that my experience can help you be more careful in your shop, please know that when you're working with big machinery, it is always dangerous. I'm never not cognizant that the table saw could harm me significantly at every given second. But I let my guard down with this thing and I got hurt. So after I injured myself, I extracted my hand, I looked at it, and I was really, really scared about what I would see. I was terrified. Oh my God, sorry. This pollen bloom is a thing. All right, so after it happened, I saw it happening. It happened, it pulled my hand in. I yanked my hand out. Survival to me was moving away from the machine. And then I stopped the machine by hitting the foot brake. And then for me, which is one of the scariest things I've ever done, I looked at my hand. And I wasn't sure what I was going to see. I wasn't sure if I was going to see part of my middle finger hanging off. At that point, pain isn't even part of it. Your body shuts that part down. It was just like shock and adrenaline. And I look and I saw this big gash up the middle of my finger, like about from here to here, right? Like that. And it's, not a clean gash, like a cut, like a raggedy, rough, yeah. So I went to the bathroom, irrigated it with iodine and medical saline, threw a little bit of triple antibiotic cream on there, and used butterfly closures to hold it shut. Now, the butterfly closures are ideal for me, in my experience, for this kind of cut exactly because it's on the inside of a bending member, which means that as I bend it this way, I'm not torquing that cut. If it was on the outside or if it was on the side, that's a much more difficult wound to heal without stitches. And if I went to the ER, make no mistake, this would have been a 25 or 30 stitch repair. I'm so cognizant that I didn't want to go to the ER. I didn't want to take up the time of the doctors and nurses who are dealing with COVID-19. I did not want to go expose myself to a place where there were people with COVID-19. I was super clear that the last thing I wanted to do was go to an ER. So when I went into the bathroom and started to deal with it, I was grateful when I assessed that I had no tactile nerve damage, and I didn't seem to have hit anything super important in there. As my pain receptors started coming back online, it wasn't as bad as I had feared it could be, and I am supremely grateful for that. The other thing I did was I called my mom. This is great. My mom is sheltering in place with us here in San Francisco. I'm very grateful to have her. She's 85, and if she wasn't here, she would have been alone in her house in New York, and I just didn't want her there. We brought her out a couple weeks ago, and I called her and said, could you come over to the shop? And it was actually really great to have my mom, who is, her father was a surgeon. She was a terrific help, and I think it's kind of funny that I called my mommy, right? And it was very reassuring. So now it's Monday, and my shop is an ever-loving mess. Hold on, let me show you this. This, like, I left my shop in this. All right, I'll fix you later. I left my shop in this state of like total disarray, as I had to, right? And this is just like, I had to take care of business. But now, as part of the practice of healing, I'm going to put my shop back together. So I thought I'd set up a nice high time-lapse shot, and we finish this video with bringing the shop back into working order.